In the last video, I showed off some cool applications related to the MIDI control banks, but this time around we'll be looking at the panning banks. These registration banks also work by altering hidden mixer values when a specific slot is recalled, specifically the pan position of the tones assigned to the keyboard. These Casio models are all stereo instruments, so they transmit sound on two channels, one for the left audio output and one for the right. A good way to demonstrate this is the panning arpeggiator. Assuming you've got headphones on, you should notice that this arpeggiated synth tone is moving between the left and right outputs to create a wider, more spacious sound. This arpeggiator works by altering the tone's pan position value to determine whether the sound favors the left channel or the right channel at any given moment. Pan position values can range from 0 to 127, with the default value of 64 acting as the center position, meaning the tone is heard equally in both the left and right channels. These panning banks take this concept a step further by hard panning certain tones all the way left with a pan value of 0, or all the way right with a pan value of 127. When a tone is hard panned like this, it will only be heard in one of the two output channels, essentially making it behave as if it was a mono instrument rather than the usual stereo signal. To illustrate this, I'll need to choose a registration that will give me the appropriate panning values for my demo performance. I want to record electric piano on the right audio channel and a bass assigned to the lower split on the left audio channel, so I'll import panning bank 1 and recall slot 2, then disable the layered tone since I won't be needing it. Now I'll just swap out these default tones for the tones I actually want to use and save all these settings to a new registration. Now that's cool and all, but you might be wondering why it's useful to split the signals like this. Well, to help explain this better, I've imported this audio recording into Audacity, a free audio editing program that's great for simple recording projects like this. The upper track here is the left channel with the bass guitar, and the lower track is the right channel output with the electric piano sound. Right now, Audacity is still treating this file as if it's one single stereo recording. So when I play it, we'll hear each tone in one side of our headphones. But if we split our stereo track into two separate mono tracks, Audacity will mirror the audio to both channels so we can listen to it properly out of stereo headphones or speakers. Now that I have two entirely separate audio tracks, I have way more flexibility when it comes to applying effects and post-processing to each tone. I can lower the volume level of just the bass track, I can add some reverb and delay to the E-piano track by itself, I can EQ both tracks in vastly different ways, and so much more. Just for comparison, this recording of that same riff has both tones outputting in stereo, layered on top of each other, same as it would be normally without using any of these custom bank files. If I wanted to maintain the same flexibility for effects and post-processing while recording this way, I'd need to lay down two individual takes for E-piano and bass, and that would basically double the amount of time I spend recording. Now, that's a very handy time saver when you're in the studio and you have access to post-processing to clean up your mono tracks. But what about playing live, like at a gig or a jam session? Well, these particular instruments only have one output jack, a stereo connector that's meant to carry both the left and right signals in one single cable, primarily for use with headphones. However, if you get yourself a splitter cable, sometimes called a breakout cable or a Y adapter, You can split the stereo output at the source, allowing you to send out your hard-panned mono signals using entirely separate cables and thus route them to entirely separate destinations. There are a lot of different ways to split your signal, and the best solution might vary depending on what sorts of cables and adapters you already have, so I put together a couple of handy guides on what to buy for your specific instrument. Isolating your mono signals opens up a ton of options for processing your tones through outboard effects units, which is especially great if you already have pedals to work with. If you don't already have pedals, a great bang for your buck option would be a multi-effects unit, as these devices can handle a wide variety of effects like chorus, delay, reverb, overdrive, phasers, amp simulations, and more. I've got my Zoom B1 On effects unit here, and even though it's designed to be used with bass guitars, I've used the awesome Zoom Effects Manager hack to load it up with some newer effects from the more synthesizer-friendly Multistomp CDR. If you're interested in some other affordable options, here are a few you might consider, but I encourage you to do your own research into what suits your particular needs and budget. For this demonstration, I'll be sticking with the same slot in Panning Bank 1, except this time, I'm going to enable the layered tone so I can send both this arpeggiated harp sound and this vibraphone bell sound out of the right output, which will run through the Zoom unit for some added chorus delay and reverb. The left output will carry a space pad sound assigned to the lower split, which I've routed through some guitar pedals. And just to add a simple drum beat, I'm going to use the built-in looper on the Zoom pedal, which is another very helpful feature of a lot of multi-effects units. While this individual outputs hack is extremely versatile and useful, there are some limitations and fine details to be aware of, but I think we've already covered a ton of ground for one video. However, when you follow the download link in the description down below, you can check out the expanded write-up I included alongside the files over on Casio Music Forums. That'll do it for my initial demos of these awesome utility banks, but if you want to stay informed on the progress of the RBK Mixer program that I used to create them, you should definitely keep tabs on the development thread over on the forums, which I've also linked in the description. When RBK Mixer is ready for a public release, I'll be putting out another demo video on how to adjust the volume balance of the layered and split tones. So if that's something that you're interested in, please consider subscribing for future updates. This has been Chandler Holloway. Thanks for watching.